Okay. Hey guys, wanted to begin to talk with you a little bit about our 30-30 challenge. Here we are for adults today, going to be doing the 30-30 challenge. And so hopefully you are in the middle of doing the new City Catechism. And so we're going to be dealing with another question today, but it's another day. We're at question number 6. So let's head down to there and get on with it. So question number 6 from the New City Catechism: how can we glorify God? How can we glorify God? Now, okay, when we talk about glorifying God, we mean a lot of things. And most of the time we're kind of off with that. We don't really use that word glorify, though. And so we need to think about, how do we honor, how do we show God with our lives, that we belong to Him, and that we praise Him and give Him all honor and that is due Him. And so that's really what we're talking about. How can we glorify God? How can we really live for Him? And so I think the answer that New City Catechism gives is really profound. And so I want to open that one up. Because a lot of the time we talk about you need to glorify God. Well, then how do we actually do that? So here's what the answer is in New City Catechism. They say this: we glorify God by enjoying Him, loving Him, trusting Him, and by obeying His will, commands, and law. So let me just go back to that. We glorify God by enjoying Him, loving Him, trusting Him, by obeying His will, commands, and law. So let's think about that really quickly. That answer. One of the ways that we will begin to glorify God is by enjoying Him, loving Him, and trusting Him. So question for you is, do you enjoy God? You know, I remember a time when I was in college, and this concept of loving God, a very difficult concept to grasp. Because here I am, somebody who says I have a relationship with the Lord, but trying to grasp what it means, and how do you love someone who you can't see and experience? How do you begin with that, right? And it's really by getting to know Him better that you then begin to able to love Him. And so one of the things I needed to do was fill my life with Him. Before I can really truly love Him and know Him, I've got to be able to open up His words to hear more about Him, so that I can know Him. And the more that I know Him, I will begin to love Him. And so I think part of that is just spending time with Him. But a lot of the time we don't view God this way. A lot of the time we don't enjoy Him, especially when you look at an answer like this by saying that you obey His will and commands and His law. A lot of the time we don't look at God as enjoyable. In fact, many times even Christians fall into this trap of looking at God as kind of the cosmic, policeman, there to stop your fun. It gives you a bunch of rules and all those things. And the truth is, though, in the Christian walk, is God's not here to stop your fun at all. God has laid out a path for you that He knows better than you do. You may think you know better. You may think that you have been, by you, being true to who you think you really are, is what's going to really please God in the end. But that's not what it is. God's laid out how you please Him already, and we see that in the Scriptures. I'll give you a couple of verses here. And this is the one from New City Catechism, is Deuteronomy 11:1. Therefore love the Lord your God always, and keep His mandate and His statutes and His ordinances and His commands. So notice in here that in this command to love God, it's to keep His commandments. That in the Old Testament, you were called to love God. See, even in the Old Testament, the relationship was not one of, hey, just do all the things that I say and I make sure I won't zap you. I think if you don't read the Bible, that's what you think of God. I mean, if that's your view, I'm going to venture to say that your time with the Lord is probably not that vibrant. If you believe that God is just here to zap you when you don't hold His commands, that's pretty far off. In fact, even in this passage here, love the Lord your God always and keep His commands. So keep God first. And the way that you're going to do that is by living for Him. So you keep His mandate and His statutes and ordinances and commands. You see, sometimes we look at obedience to God, living out what he has said. We look at that as a chore. We don't enjoy him. We do it because we don't want to get hammered. That's not enjoying God. That's not really glorifying. I mean, we all have people like that we know, right? You have somebody in mind that you just say, I do these things to avoid them. If I just do what I need to do and keep my mouth shut, they won't bother me and I can move on. But that's not real relationship. That's the opposite of enjoying that person, loving. That's trying to do everything you can to avoid that person. Jesus even tells us, he says this, if you look at this from his words in John 14, on that day you will know that I am in my Father and you are in me and I am in you. The one who has my commands and keeps them is the one who loves me. And the one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will also love him and reveal myself to him. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing that Jesus is saying the exact same thing. Is that if you love me, you'll keep my commands. See, we don't love God and then live the way that we want to. No relationship really works like that. You think about a marriage relationship, or if you're not married in a relationship with somebody else, what kind of relationship works when you say, I really love you, but I'm not really going to do anything that you like. In fact, I'm going to kind of hang out with other people most of the time and do what I want to do. A one-sided relationship doesn't work. That's not really love. There's the other side. What kind of relationship would that work if you said, I'm just doing all I can to avoid you? Now, I know there are a lot of relationships where you might even say in marriages, people do that, but that's not the love that we're commanded of. The reason we do these things is out of love for God. We recognize what he's done. We recognize who he is and what he's done for us. That's when I go back to this answer again that we bring up. We glorify him by enjoying him, loving him, trusting him, obeying his will, commands, and law. Part of being that is, first off, just trusting him in the gospel. When I have believed on who Jesus is, that's a first step towards glorifying God, is that I have believed the message of the gospel. I believe what Jesus has done for me. I trust him in that message. And then as I begin to let that permeate my world, I will love him more. When you understand the depths that he was willing to go for you, and that how he had to drag you out of darkness into light, that should make you love him more, not want to avoid him. And the more that I want to love him would be more that I would want to live for him. That's why Jesus says that you must, if you're really going to show that you love him, that you keep his commands. So the idea that I can be a Christian and say, I'm going to live for me, or that I'm all cool about Jesus, but I really don't like the Bible. I don't let it speak into issues of my life choices and my identity, is totally at odds with the Bible and not glorifying God. Glorifying God will mean that I'm going to live for him. I'm going to live the way that he has called me to do and try to live that out with everything that I do. And so I love what we get to. Let's get back to that answer again. Think about that this week of what it means. We glorify God by enjoying him, loving him, trusting him, obeying his will, commands, and the law. Begin to try to look at the way that God has laid things out for you as these are things that he wants that are best for you, and begin to trust him with those and follow him. I think about this in my own family with our kids. We try to boil down, what does God want for our young children right now? And one of the big things is just obey your parents, right? They can't grasp a lot of stuff, but one thing they can do is just trust us. Then we tell them to not do certain things, that there's a trust factor involved there, that we have what's best for them. And obvious, and many times, they think they know so much better than us. And we watch when they blatantly disobey, and what ends up being really a disaster for them because they didn't choose to obey. We've told them, trust us. We know that this is better. And so part of that is for Jesus too, and for the commands is trust God and know that it's his way is better, and live for him and not for yourself. And begin to let that play out for you. So as I finish up, we glorify God by enjoying him, loving him, trusting him, and obeying his will, commands, and law. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Hope you are having a good time, having a good day. See you later.